Welcome to BSG webinars, everybody. My name is Jake Keeler, VP of Marketing at BSG, coming to you from my home office in Eagan, Minnesota. Thanks for joining us. This is our 5th episode. Future episodes are posted on our website, as well as a link to video recordings of our past episodes. The page can be found by going to bsgcraft.com/webinars. We'll be taking a break next week, but we'll have more webinars lined up in the weeks to come, so stay tuned for that. Throughout this webinar, please ask questions through the Q&A function, which is at the center of the toolbar at the bottom of your viewing screen. If we have time, we'll do a Q&A session after the presentation. You can also send follow-up questions to webinars@bsgcraft.com. Today's speaker is Axel Jany, Team Leader International Customer Consultant at Weyermann Specialty Malts. His talk is entitled Base Malts with a Story, Heirloom, Terroir, and Traditional Malts, and an overview of the organic malt portfolio. And with that, I'll hand it over to Axel.
Hi guys, can you hear me? I hope everything works out. From far away, sitting in Germany, it's 8 p.m. here. And thank you for BSG for introducing me. We will dive right in. Let's see if that works. Yes, right. So as Jake just said, we will be talking about base malts with a story, heirloom, terroir, and traditional malts, and an overview of the Weyermann organic malt portfolio. So you will see my mucky face later on during the question and answers, but here's just a brief introduction. I'm the Weyermann team leader of the International Customer Consultant. I'm a brewer and maltster myself. I'm a diploma brewmaster from Barley, Berlin, and I've got 33 years of professional brewing on my back, and I'm also a beer sommelier. And my wife, she knows Photoshop, so I look younger on that picture than I do now. Okay, so what does the International Customer Consultant of Weyermann do? Well, we travel the world to talk about Weyermann Specialty Malts. We offer technical support, we develop recipes together, and we brew beers with customers. And in recent times, the webinars become more and more important due to the travel constraints. And we are always available by email to support our customers out and about. I just selected these two pictures to show. It's hoodoo up in Alaska in the winter, and this is in Thailand. So yes, that job does really take us all around the world, well, in all the countries where Weyermann is selling their malt to. I'll just give you a brief few slides about Weyermann 2020. So in case you have not been in Bamberg, so you see where we are located, what we're doing. And then we will dive right into the two big subjects, or the one big subject in the middle, base malts with a story. Let's start here with a few slides about Weyermann. Weyermann is 140 years old. We had our anniversary party 2019. Johann Baptist, this fine gentleman up here, started his company in 1879 up in Bamberg on one of the hills. And he was roasting barley up there, not to make dark beers, but more as a coffee surrogate. And then after 25 years, he started his first pneumatic malt house back in the days in 1904. It was certainly one of the most modern ones in the world. And we are still producing in that building. It is a historic building, you'll see in a minute. Weyermann is still family owned and operated. I'm sure most of you have met Sabine and Thomas during the CVC conferences or visiting you guys in the US. Franziska, their daughter, is the 5th generation, and she joined the management team in 2017. All three have a master degree in brewing from Weinstefan, and of course, Baptist has to be in the picture there as well. Weyermann does have 3 production sites at the moment and 1 grain elevator. I'm sitting here in the office at the moment in Bamberg, in our historic malt house, where we mainly produce the caramel and the chocolate roasted malts. We have another malt house 20 miles down the River Main in Haßfurt, where we produce a lot of base malt, Barke, and the Bohemian base malts that we produce on our modern malt house. I'll come to this in a minute. Then we have Klingen, you guys who get a lot of malts in containers that go straight out of Klingen. And what you see down here is our grain elevator, which is 20 miles to the west, and this is quite unique. Weyermann does believe in a very close contact with the local farmers, so we are able to have contracts with over 500 farmers in that barley growing area of Franconia. They know us for a long time. They know what we want. Obviously, then, you know, this is what you want in terms of brewing quality. They know how to harvest or how to create a nice two-row spring barley variety for brewing. And here we are able to store up to 45,000 tons of our own grain and use that in our malt houses. So it is a regional grain supply that Weyermann is relying on. This is a map of Germany. You see here the big state of Bavaria. We are in the northern part of Bavaria. Franconia is the area of the barley growing. Then in addition, Thuringia and Saxony are the big fields. This is the former east of Germany, so the fields are much larger. Very nice, consistent two-row spring barley. For example, the Barke grows there a lot. And then also in the Czech Republic, we do source our Czech barley varieties that go into our Bohemian malt varieties. And in addition, I will talk about that in a minute, is Venice. It's where our terroir malt Eraclea comes from. So to round this up, Weyermann does offer 85 different products, and they range from base malts to premium base malts to technical malts, the smoked malt side, of course, Belgian style malts, caramel, and chocolate roasted malts. Today, terroir, heirloom, and traditional floor malting will be looked upon, and I will also show you one of our latest new product in organic form. We have an organic Melanoidin malt available for you. So as I said, in total it is 85 different products, but yet it's like, yep, we've got a cool product range, but do you have anything new? So is malt the new hop? Here you see Horst Dornbusch, gently caressing the new developments on the barley breeding programs. This picture was taken by me at Breun. Breun is the original breeder of the Barke, the variety that I will talk a little bit more in a minute. And when you think of it, well, what can the maltster do? You know, what can he tweak in order to make you a malt that is different, that is new, that it imparts different flavors or technical properties? So first of all, yes, it is grain selection. What is on the field will then be selected by the maltster to bring into the malt house. Then on germination, the temperature, the moisture content, the ratio between O2 and CO2, you know, it's just a bit like in your car. If you want to go on recirc and just have the air inside the cabin, or you want to get fresh air in from the outside. So that takes place also in the germination box, and you can sort of put a brake on the breezing properties of the malt in order to slow down processes or to quick up processes. Time is of essence, of course. Then the kiln temperature and the air ratio makes a difference. And of course, the caramelization and the roasting drums. The one of you who have been here at Bamberg have seen our roasting drums. We've got 7 roasting drums currently, and there are new ones to be installed soon. That is for us, the best way and the most consistent way to produce caramel and roasted malts. So yes, in total, the consistency and the cleanliness is also something that the maltster can do or can pay attention to so that you get a nice malt. Okay, but what can be influenced by the malt bill in your beers? Here is a summary. It is the aroma, pleasant and distinct, that can be affected by the malt you're using, the foam, volume and stability of it, the color of the beer in terms of consistency and intensity, and the flavor, the definition and the character depending on your beer recipe and the raw materials that you're using. And of course the body, if it's full, rich, and the mouthfeel. I selected this picture with the black, red, and gold beer types. And when you think of it, only Belgium and Germany selected these three colors for their national flag. So I think there is something to it. They either chose their national flags because they like beer so much, or yeah, I think that's the way it is. Right. So we do produce all these nice malts for you, but obviously it's good to double check and work with them on site. So you see here our 2.5 hectoliter brew house made by Kaspar Schulz. That is now in our new area across the street. Here you see the red brick building, that's the malt house, but we moved the brewery and the Technicum over to the other side of the street in order to free up space. And we are capable of doing 400 brews a day. We've got 90 hectoliter storage capacity. We've got a very nice bottling line because it makes a difference. You know, if we put so much effort into the brew and then we want to showcase the beer, it's important to have a nice oxygen-free beer going into the bottle and staying there. And we use it for product development, for recipe design, but also for seminars and brewing courses and collaboration brews. So, you know, whenever that travel restrictions are easing off, why don't you come on over and we brew together. It's a 3-vessel system. It is fully automated, not that because our brewers are lazy or so, but no, we do want to have some close changes in the recipe done by automation in order to really be sure that we can pinpoint small deviations in the malt bill during product development. But we do run that system obviously also on manual mode. Right, so what do we see in trends in malt and beer in, I would say, 2019, and that carries over now into 2020. We've got that trend from IPAs towards lagers due to the great drinkability and brewmaster's pride. It's a bit like, you know, the start out with an IPA system might not be really up to the cooling requirements of a lager, but then after a while, everything gets smoothed out and there is more money for cooling, and then the brewer says, well, let's do a lager. Let's do something that really, you know, is going to be a nice lager and not what the industrial guys are doing. And for that, we've seen an increasingly demand in premium base malts. Premium base malts in terms of Heirloom, Terroir, and traditional floor malting. So yes, you do have the same nice enzyme properties and such, but you get something on top. And I will explain that in detail in a bit. The second one is there is a trend towards colorful beers. Worldwide, I get emails all the time. Oh, Axel, I want to do a red ale, I want to do a red lager, a road beer. Even in Germany, you know, the road beer hype coming out of Nuremberg is really pushing. But also the Schwarz beer is getting more popular. So that's something that we obviously with the caramel malts in the colorful side, Cara Red and Melanoidin, and so can be of help. And out of that reason, we also extended our very broad organic range with the latest organic malt. It is the Weyermann Melanoidin in Bioland. I'll explain that in a minute. And last but not least, and I don't think we'll have time today, there is a trend to mid to low ABV beers. So Berliner Weisse style harvest beers, and obviously there the Cara Pils and Cara Hell is very much sought after. And also the sour wort, because especially in low ABV beers, you want to get the acidity right, which you would normally experience during fermentation. So by adding sour wort, you get that desired tartness, even if you just have a non-alcoholic beer, for example. But again, I think we will have to leave this for a later presentation. Right, base malts with a story and emotion and flavor, obviously, because just something with a story and no difference in flavor or in properties makes no sense. Then it will be blah, blah. So really we have to deliver something that can be noted by the customer. And for that, we produce authentic heirloom varieties, we produce terroir malts, and we have the traditional malting techniques. All of these are imparting flavors which are unique on the malts. And on the other side of the bar, the customer, they like emotional connections. It's something that obviously, you know, if you brew an IPA with a Bohemian Floor Malt, that would be a bit of a waste, because you have to talk about it and say, look, this is what it is, and you describe it, and then people will notice. You should experience the unique flavor profiles for characterful beers, and on the other hand, it should not fall short in terms of quality and brewing performance. Here you see, you know, our grain elevator in Lesau and our trial fields in front. Very busy. Okay, first one is our heirloom variety Barke. Here is a picture. Obviously, you know, if I would be standing in front of you, we could go and nibble it and smell it, and you see it. It's a very nice plum 2-row spring barley variety. But the uniqueness of it is Barke was you know, developed by the barley breeder Breun from Herzogenaurach, where the Adidas headquarters is located. You know, I would say 30 miles down from Bamberg. And it was in use up until the 80s, but then it was phased out, not because of its brewing properties, but because of lack of yield on the field. Yeah? There were varieties that were giving more tons per acre, and back in the days, it was just the large breweries. They were looking for extract, and they said, whoop, Barke is not giving enough tons per acreage. The farmer was unhappy, and they phased it out and got more modern varieties. And thanks to you and brewers who were more keen on flavors, that, well, we're missing it. You know, the new ones are just yeast feed. You know, yeah, we do get extract, but there's just no flavor to it. So what can we do? And then Breun and Weyermann teamed up together, and we brought it back and, you know, selected that seed from their seed bank and started up again, and spoke with our farmers. I told you we've got the 500 farmers under contract. They trust us, and they say, okay, maybe their father even knew Barke from back then. They said, well, if we start growing it again, we will compensate for the less tons on the field with a higher purchase price for the barley. And we will make a very nice base malt out of it. And so this is how we brought it back. And heirloom is, yeah, it's my typical explanation is a bit like with tomatoes. Now you go to a shop and you have these very plum, big red tomatoes, but they all taste the same. And then you have the heirloom varieties like your grandfather used to have in his garden. They were spicy, they were peppery, and this is like what Barke is. It's one of the old seeds that has still flavor, and it's not as much tweaked for effectiveness on the farming. Yeah. So when you look at the aroma wheel, or even if you would try it, and if you try the Barke and you put it in your mouth, you don't have this one-dimensional sweetness peak. It might even be less sweet apparently on your tongue in the first minute or first second, but then it will linger on. The maltiness is in your mouth for much, much longer than on a modern base malt. So this really is something that you can immediately see and test by having a normal, nice Pilsner malt. It's got that sweetness, job done. This is what it's made for. But the Barke got that maltiness, and that carries over into the beers. So we have been fortunate here at Weyermann that the Bamberger Hofbräu name, no, let's put it different. Bamberger Hofbräu used to be the largest brewery here in Bamberg, and then it was bought by Terroir from Nuremberg, and they used it for a while, and then they stopped using the Bamberger Hofbräu name, and that became available to be purchased by us, and we resurrected the Hofbräu line exclusively by brewing it with Barke. So we have at the moment a lager, a pils, an export, a Rauch, a Schwarzbier, and a Bock, an Exquisator, as a double Bock, as a showcase of the Barke, and it certainly has been received very well here in our fan shop, and it just showcases what a premium base malt can do in terms of flavors. And I want to show you two recipes. The first one is our Hofbräu Lager. Lager, again, is one of the beer styles which is very much popular now. Also in Germany, people are more, craft brewers are thinking, oh, lager is something. It's hard to make because you can't hide behind hops, you can't hide behind color, everything. Everything is there. Any mistake the brewer can make will shine through if not done right. So it is a bit of a diva, but it's so rewarding to make a nice lager. And here you see the Barke we produce in Pilsner, in Vienna, and in Munich. And that recipe for the Hofbräu Lager only contains 85% Barke Pilsner and 15% Barke Munich in order to get this more rich golden hue into the Helles or into the lager. And yeah, very nice beer. And also very good foam stability and just a beauty. I wish you should have one with me. On the other end of the ABV and on the extract is an Exquisator, a double bock. And here also the Barke really shines in a strong gravity beer. We have 36% Barke Pilsner. We have 50% Barke Munich, the 10% Cara Munich, type 1, and 3% of our Special W. Special W being the Arnold Schwarzenegger of our malts, really pushing in all directions, very flavorsome, so only 3%. And then to round it off, Carafa Spezial with 1%, and you get this color, and it's a beautiful Doppelbock. So also very, very nice. Okay, coming from the Heirloom varieties to the Terroir malts, and we have two groups where the terroir makes a difference. That's first of all in the Czech Republic, the Bohemian growing area. This is where they grow mostly Malz and Boyos, is the two Czech barley varieties that are grown there, and we import them as barley and are processing them into our Bohemian malt line. And we also have Venice, or the city of Eraclea, that gave the name to our terroir malt, Eraclea. And we will start with that. Eraclea, you see here when you Google, you see this is a little village called Eraclea. It's just above Venice. You see here is Venice. Sorry, it was German Google, so it says Venedig, but it is Venice. You have the Laguna, and you see by the satellite that you have these small barley fields. And so this is that barley growing area of Eraclea. And the uniqueness of that Eraclea barley growing region is, of course, its terroir. Well, that's why it says terroir. But no, what it is like it's right by the Mediterranean Sea, the Adriatic Sea actually up there. And you see the fields almost touching the waterfront. So if the combine is stuck in gear, it might drive right into the Adriatic Sea. And this gives a unique climate. What we do here is the farmers are growing, it's a 2-row spring barley variety, but they are seeding it out in autumn. Yeah? Because, I mean, if you've been to Venice in winter, you will see it is so foggy that London is more a hazy place. Yeah? So all of that moisture comes in the winter time. So by seeding the Eraclea barley in autumn, there is enough precipitation and there's enough moisture in the ground so that it can start rooting and developing nicely. And then in spring, after the spring rain, boom, suddenly it starts to be dry. And this gives that unique flavor. It's got this seaside saltiness, yet that dryness during harvest, very early harvest. And when you smell the Eraclea, it is more of a grassy notes. It's very, very a delicate flavor. It's something, even as a malt coming out of our malt house and you smell it, it still smells like the receiving silo from the farmer. So it got this grassiness to it, and that carries over so well into the beers. It gives a crisp note to it. But I'm racing ahead, I'm getting too excited here. So just remember Eraclea from Italian barley fields kissed by the Adriatic Sea. And I think I don't have to do a lot of advertising for it. I've seen a lot of US brewers brewing a beautiful Italian style Pilsner that it's almost getting like a new group of beers, the Italian style Pils. So here we have the recipe for it, how we interpret it as our Weyermann number 17 recipe. We've got 87% of Eraclea Pilsner malt in it. We've got 10% of Cara foam to give a nice head retention and some body. And the acidulated malt here, the 3%, we are brewing it according to the Reinheitsgebot, so we want to lower the pH a bit in the mesh for better enzyme activity, but also for protection of that nice shiny color. And then in combination with some Slovenian hop, for example, which comes from the same terroir, the same region, Slovenia being also at the Adriatic Sea and close by, very, very crisp, summer lager, easy to drink, and got a unique flavor to it. Right, I've mentioned our Bohemian line before. Bojos and Malts are the two currently, famous and yet modern Bohemian spring barley varieties, and we either produce them in our malt house here in Haßfurt, the one you've seen on the picture, or in our traditional floor malting production in the Czech Republic. And so that depends on how much you want to go into it. But I will explain why that floor malting is so unique. When you look at it, if that is our floor malting facility, and here on that picture you see it is on the floor only in about 30 centimeters. How much is it? 10 inch? Yeah, like a subway sub, that height. And there's no artificial aeration, and all the volatile aromas are staying in that grain. When you think germination box, the grain stays about 5 days, and on modern malt houses, you're pushing air through, and obviously, if you put some air for 5 days, it will lose some of these very gentle aromas and volatile aromas that are in there, and they are staying in a floor malted malt, obviously, and this is the difference between traditional and modern. As you can imagine, there's no machinery built in. This is just manual labor. Here you see Thomas Kraus Weyermann turning it, so it is a bit more expensive than the modern counterpart of it, but for true Bohemian style Pilsner, for example, it's a beauty to brew with. I'll show you the recipe. Here is our Bohemian Pilsner recipe. We've used 92% of floor malted Bohemian Pilsner, again 5% Cara foam, 2% acidulated out of the reason I've explained a few minutes ago. And in order to get this typical Pilsen style golden hue into the beer, just 1% Cara Bohemian, which is quite dark. What you see here, this table is our range of malts in terms of EBC and Lovibond. So here the Cara Bohemian, we're almost getting into that chocolate range. So it is a very, very dark malt, very dark caramel malt, but 1% into these beautiful base malts will give that golden hue. If you would leave that out, it would be more like a northern style Pils, but that Cara Bohemian just fits into a Czech beer so well. And I just wanted to show you that recipe here for the Bohemian Pilsner, and to say that any of the recipes that we do develop here at Weyermann are available. So just send BSG or us an email and say, well, I want to brew, this or the one I saw, in your presentation, or a different one. We will look up into our library, and I would say there are at least 400 in there that we brewed, and we are more than happy to share them with you and discuss beer. So this is just a little reminder for me that I'm slide to tell you that yes, for each of our recipes, we do have that recipe, and yeah, please stay in contact with us. Okay, so this pretty much rounded up the base malts with a story. We've talked about the Heirloom, the Terroir, and the traditional malts, and the next few slides, I just want to showcase our organic malt portfolio and what is new there. So when you think of organic, first of all, yes, it needs to be certified. And by that, we are certified not only the malt house, but also the Heinz Weyermann, the brewery that produces the Sinamar. Both the malt house and the Sinamar brewery are certified according to the European organic legislations. Then we are certified and tested against the standards of the Bioland, Demeter, and Naturland, which are organizations that set forth the standard for what is organic produce. On top of that, we are by the Japanese Agriculture Ministry and the standards of Bio-Swiss. So where is the US in this? Well, the USDA organic is here, and we are USDA organic, how you say, not certified, but we are complying with them because there was a treaty in 2012 between the USA and the EU. That means if something is produced in the EU according to the strict controls, then the NOP standards are automatically granted. And for that reason, we can use our certificates from over here. And then once the malt goes into the US, the authorities are checking that they are done according to the EU organic, and then they are fine with it because they had this agreement that they know that the European legislation is strict enough for the USDA. So at the moment, I mean, when you visit us here, you will see we even have a different receiving station for the organic raw materials, so that there are two product streams, one for the conventional malt, which is in Germany very strict in terms of what can be done and what cannot be done. So even if you buy non-organic, you will be sure that you have a very well-tested malt in terms of residues and all of that. But yes, if you want to go organic, then you are certain that it comes from a different stream, and there is no mixing in the augers and in the chain transporters and all of that. And currently we have, now we have 19. We used to have 18 until a few weeks ago, ranging from Pilsner, Pale Ale, Vienna, Munich for base malts, inorganic, and then into the specialty malts, wheat malt, caramel malts, and chocolate malts. So you are able to brew a lot of different beer styles, complete organic. Now, it makes no sense to go 90% organic and then use 10% differently. So yes, it's good to have a broad portfolio. And out of that reason, we heard you guys saying, well, we're missing melanoidin, and you screamed loud enough to say, yeah, okay, we're going to produce an organic, in brackets it says Bioland, so it is according to the rules set forth by the Bioland organization, and that is available from now on. I think BSG already has it in stock, and this rounds it off quite nicely in terms of being more creative in colorful beers again. And here's the text pretty much to read. It's just, I want to show you this to say that we are currently revising the Weyermann yellow pages, and we want to describe each malt not only in its properties and aroma and color, but also in the use. So from now on, when this will be out, we will showcase each malt in terms of, okay, what you can use it for light lagers, for amber lagers, dark lagers, bock. So I think, or we think, that it will give a nice guideline of which malt can be used for which beers. And by using the names of the international judging on the beers, it's easier to speak the same language there. Right, I think I will round this up so that we can still talk a bit questions and answers. And oh yeah, so there's just one more recipe where we're using the melanoidin. So you could do all of that recipe in organic. So you could have an organic barley wine with that color, very nice. And we've done this barley wine many times, but also now in barrel aged. It ages very nicely in whiskey barrels. So that's certainly something that you can try. And in the beginning of the presentation, I said the international customer consultants travel the world to place the presence of beauty in beers. So this pretty much rounds up the last 40 minutes or so. And last but not least, yeah, feel invited. Come see us. These pictures were taken during the Bavarian party that we do every year here in Bamberg. Let's hope that all this COVID thing gets over quickly and we can all see each other again and drink beer together. But on the other hand, stay safe, and we shouldn't be silly. Take care. Thank you so much. Jake, you can now put you back on. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome.
Thanks, Axel. That is awesome. And just a reminder to everybody that this this webinar is being recorded and will be available probably in the coming days via our YouTube channel. So there's a lot of information in there, but you can go back to this, look at those recipes. And of course, as Axel pointed out, you can always reach out to BSG, to your sales manager, your customer service agent, directly to us, and we can get Axel involved and answer your questions. So with that, we did have some questions come through during the talk. We got about 4 of them here so far. The first question, Axel, is with delicate flavors being present in malts like Eraclea, what type of yeast would you use to bring out those flavors?
Yeah, very good question. As I said in the presentation, I'm coming to the yeast in a second, but that's also the reason why we recommended the Slovenian hops, because they are very gentle. Yeah, so they are not overpowering. It's a bit of that balance. Yeah, and if you use Eraclea with a mild a hop, more aromatic, not so bitter. And then on the other hand, the yeast also not throwing so much flavors. Yeah, so more a clean fermentation there and not so much yeast fermentation byproducts, then it shines quite nicely. In our recipes, we do recommend fermentous yeast, the one that is approved.
We carry, yep.
Yeah, but out of my head at the moment, I don't know which one it was.
Right. Well, I got to imagine, you know, I guess it depends if you're making an ale or lager, of course, but yes, some neutral yeast, as you said, something that's really going to let that malt shine through. I think that, you know, I've had some beers made with this malt, and absolutely letting the malt kind of be the star of the show is definitely what you want to do. So as you said, neutral yeast profile or you know, contributions and more of a subtle contribution from those hops is really going to help that malt shine through. Kind of moving into a question specifically using Eraclea for a Pilsner. Can you speak to the best mash schedule for brewing a Pilsner with Eraclea and or floor malted Bohemian?
Yeah, I mean, with all of these malts are so nicely modified, so you can go right into, you know, it's even, we sell that also to the UK, where there's a lot of infusion going on, and they would still nicely modify. Yeah, so we would start the mashing on the Barke. We do a decoction. Yeah, just because it is a bit of a traditional thing, but definitely no need for that. With the Eraclea, I should have, well, I don't have the recipe because, as I said, we've got so many. I didn't prepare by having that recipe out of my head here. But I think we've gone mash in at above 60 degrees Celsius, and then you know, do the alpha amylase afterwards, and then, you know, just normal standard. Okay,
so nothing, like you said, they're modified to the point where you can treat them like a modern malt. There's
correct.
No need
yes,
special care with them. Yeah, absolutely.
Also the same with the floor malt. Yeah, it does. It's again so nicely modified that you don't have to do that extra effort so much. Yeah.
Right. Next question is, would it be necessary to apply carapils for recipes using floor malted grains? So is it necessary to add a contribution of a certain amount?
Yeah, that sort of goes back to that question that we had before, with if it's modified enough, yeah, or too much, then cara foam will help. Yeah. It's here in our Bohemian, we put some in, no? Just also, again, the Germans are so keen on this very, very long standing foam. Yeah. So for that reason, it's more that foam related thing than anything else. No?
Yeah. I mean, but that speaks to presentation, right? I think sometimes that's a quality of beer that's been overlooked in the past maybe throughout the last 10 years. And I do see a lot of breweries come back to that. I think of slow pour pills from Bierstadt in Denver. You know, this idea of the presentation of the beer being as important as the flavor, and it's part of the experience, right? And I actually really appreciate that personally.
Yeah, me too. Exactly. Yeah.
Next question here. This comes from Mike Brennan, one of our sales managers. He says, I noticed in some of your recipes, you dough in at 50 degrees Celsius. That's 122 degrees Fahrenheit for those that don't know the conversion. Thank you, Mike. Do you recommend a dough in with the heirloom malts for better efficiency?
So that he would wants to go down at 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not if he works the normal ramp up. You know what I mean? So I would not. I think at the moment Konstantin is not meshing in anything at 50 or the 122. Yeah.
Okay. And I suppose that depends a bit on, and I suppose that depends on their system.
Yes, exactly. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a very good remark, because definitely when you think of, if you have the rule of thumb was 1 degree Celsius, sorry that I'm so much more familiar with Celsius, 1 degree Celsius increase in 1 minute. You know, this is what the proper brew house should be capable of. You know, your mesh increase 1 degree Celsius per 1 minute. Yeah. Right. And that way you can really accentuate each mesh. You know, you're not, if your heating system is so inefficient, you're having 10 minutes more just to ramp up to the next level. So at that time, the enzymes are also working already. Yeah. Right. So it's like when you look in the book and you see a mesh program and it just goes boom and then steep up, boom, boom, and not so long. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And again, it's sort of something that components of the brewing process.
This is water. Yeah.
Oh, I'm disappointed. Isn't it like 8 o'clock your time in the evening?
It's 10 till 9, but I thought I'll behave afterwards. I'll have one.
Good. I got another question here. In terms of storage, how long would a base malt last in what kind of containers? That's kind of a general question. I mean, what do you guys recommend for, is there a difference between, say, the organic malts or the regular malts or the floor-malted varieties?
No, it's what we have a best before date of 18 months. Yeah, that means if you have a Weyermann malt bag, and if you compare that to others, we are putting a lot of effort into a very airtight bag. Yeah, it has that inner layer, it has an outer layer, and sometimes people don't realize we have 5 different sizes of 50-pound bags. So a heavy base malt has a smaller bag than a chocolate roasted malt because it's lighter and it requires a larger bag. Yeah. Right. So what we try to do is really get the bag as small as possible. You know, instead of saying one bag fits all and have a big 25 kg bag and then there's more air trapped in. So there's a lot of effort in the packaging, and as long as you keep it dry and below 30 degrees Celsius, which is 90 degrees Fahrenheit, probably.
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Hot summer day, yeah. Then you're totally fine to keep that for at least that 18 months, no? And something, it's a bit like buying your yogurt. You know, the supplier says, well, best before, but you decide how long you want to eat it. No?
Yeah. How much do you want to roll the dice? That brings up an interesting thing, and I know you know, obviously this talk was focused on the malts themselves, but Weyermann has made a considerable amount of investments in distribution, packaging, and logistics over the last 3 to 5 years. I wonder, could you maybe just highlight a couple of those innovations and investments that you guys have made?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, the bag itself is very, very much high construction. Then once it's packaged, we'll have a metal detector there. You know, so we're checking for the smallest particles. And I mean, there's the piece itself is maybe a little bit bigger than a needle point that can be detected in the bag. You know,
Wow.
because a lot of our customers around the world don't have a magnet or a metal detector in their breweries. So in order to do that for them, we have that checked on every bag. Then each malt that goes onto new pallets, for example, we never reuse pallets. It goes, I mean, the logistics, we have a new logistics center. We are able to, you know, palletize not only a single malt, but to have customized pallets for smaller customers and such. Being able to deliver in 136 countries at the moment, it certainly is, there's a lot of experience behind it.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, I think, you know, I've been to Bamberg a few times now, and I think that one of my biggest takeaways was just how efficient and well organized and clean, and just the care for that component. It's not just about making the malt, but it's about, you know, everything prior to the malt getting there. So barley procurement and testing, to the malting itself, to the way that it's handled once it's bagged in a logistics capacity. You know, every step along the way, there's a care towards that malt. And I think that really speaks to the overall quality of the malts coming from Weyermann.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. And also, we don't package on, you know, and put it on the shelf. It's always, we believe it's fresh in the silo is the best way to have it. And then we package when it's needed, you know, so that is why everyone gets a fresh stock. And also, so the range goes from the 50-pound bag to full container load, but also quite unique are our big bags, where we are able to customize recipes. We have a lot of customers also around your area who are having a special Pilsner recipe that is being formulated for them, and it goes into the big bags and straight to the customer.
Absolutely. Let's see. I've got, it's not a question. It says, just says must have red overalls. Well, I tell you what, Brian, if you win a medal at the GABF a competition, then you'll, and using Weyermann malt, what is the percentage? Can you remember, Axel?
50% plus.
50%. So 50% of your grist bill is Weyermann. You will get a pair of red overalls if you win a medal at GABF, which of course, this year GABF is going virtual, as is the competition, but as I understand it, the competition is still happening. So should be interesting. But as you said, I'm sure that all of us here on this webinar are eager to see each other in real space again and share a pint. While we don't have any more questions coming in, Axel, is there anything else you'd like to share with the people that have joined us today?
I would, you know, I feel bad that I couldn't, you know, produce the Eraclea recipe, but I won't get into the hectic looking into the computer. But whoever wants it, just shoot an email over and we will send that out to you.
Absolutely. Again, everybody, thanks for tuning in today. Axel, thank you so much. And thanks to Weyermann for everything that you guys do and the information you're sharing. Again, this webinar has been recorded, so we'll have this up on our YouTube channel probably in a day or two. You can find that link on the webinars page at bsgcraft.com/webinars. If we didn't get to your question today, and if you do want to know about that Eraclea recipe, send an inquiry to webinars@bsgcraft.com. We'll send those questions to Axel, get you the answer, get it back to you. Might take a little while, but we'll answer your questions in that capacity. So, and remember, we're off next week, but then we'll have some new webinars to register for. You can do that at any time at bsgcraft.com/webinars. So from everybody at BSG, from Axel, and from everybody at Weyermann, thank you so much. And cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Thanks, Jake. Bye.
Bye.